Hello everybody, sorry about that. I have no idea what happened in the middle of the intro music there. For some reason, Studio One just totally glitched out. I think I know why. It's because I'm pulling that intro theme from an external hard drive, and I don't think the external hard drive was properly awake, shall we say. You know what it's like with some external hard drives. Sometimes they kind of, when they're not really doing very much, they kind of go down into a little kind of idle mode, and then suddenly you wake them up and you go, oh, better get moving. And I think that's what was happening there. So anyway, I hope everybody is good. Welcome to Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at Jonny Lipsham Studios in the southeast of Scotland. Hope everybody is doing well and has had a fantastic week so far, even though we're only kind of halfway through it. I think they call Wednesday like hump day or something, because it's like the hump of the week. It's the middle of the week. So, yeah, happy hump day, I guess. I think that's what they call it. But I could be wrong, so I could be completely embarrassing myself. And if I am, there's nothing new there. So, welcome. We got a couple of questions in already, which is very, very good. Very quick. You guys are very quick. And they're good questions, actually. So, let's go right to the top. I think Billy was, as per usual, the first one in the door, which he was. He was like a whole 30 minutes early. And then we had John Hawk, and we have Kevin, who is gigging tonight, and he said he's going to watch the replay. So Kevin, I hope your show went well, and hello to you, and I hope you enjoy the show. If you have any questions that came to mind watching the replay, then please just drop me an email. And I'd be happy to get your question into the next show, or maybe even on Sunday. If it's a good question for Sunday, we'll do it on Sunday. So yeah, all the best to you, my friend. And Bellap Studio has the first question. We'll get to that in just a minute. Papa Raptor music is here as well, which is awesome. And Dwayne and Don Oliver and Tony Stringer is here as well, which is great. And Secret Squirrel is here as well. And I think that at the moment is that we don't have very many people, but hopefully we will get some more, because we've only got like 14 people right now. And no moderators. So behave yourselves in the chat, please, until my moderators come in. Alfredo Huerta is here, and I think you're new to my show, so welcome. I don't think I've seen your name before, so welcome. I hope you find this show useful and helpful. And this basically is normally a show that I do with my colleague Jonny Gibe, and we usually have a subject that we discuss. But Jonny has been called away on family business, so unfortunately he is not here. So you just have me, which means when we have just me, we just kind of open it up to you guys and to questions that you guys may have. And hopefully normal service will be resumed next week. And we'll have Songwriting Simplified over on the Home Studio Trainer channel as normal with Jonny. And Jonny just Skypes me into the show, and we do it that way. And that works really, really well. So we may not get quite so many people here because people might not be aware that the show is here, even though I have advertised it as such. So if you know people that normally are here, go tell them and give them the link to this show and get them here. So that we have everybody. And we're approaching 16 people now. So we're getting there. We're getting there. All right, let's go up to the questions. without any hesitation. So Burlap Studio, that's my friend Kelly, he says, if I just named 4 notes, could you help figure out what the chord is, or does it depend on context? And I kind of partially answered that. The answer is yes, I could probably help name that. But as always, context is king. Just kind of like 4 random notes, like, that's not really going to tell you very much. I mean, in this case, it might a bit, because we got the root. If I'm taking the lowest note as the root, which most commonly it might be, if it's in root position, I've got root 5, 7, and then I've got this note here. So it kind of is a D flat 7, flat 9 shell, except there's no third. So, which I just kind of picked out at random. I just put my fingers on there. So sometimes you can work it out. I called it D flat. It could be C sharp. Kind of depends on. That's where context is really important, actually, when you're wanting to figure out what a chord is. That will help you work that out. What key you're in. Are you in a sharp key? Are you in a flat key? If you're in B flat major, then you would call that a D flat 7, flat 9. But if you are in A major, you'd maybe call that C sharp major 7, or C sharp 7, I should say, flat 9. So context in that case is going to be king. Okay, and we've got that set of notes here. So let's get to that set of notes, and then we'll jump back to Billy's question, which is great. And he's given us some information here. So we got E flat, starting from lowest going up. So we got an E, a B flat, another E, and then an A. And then he says, but when these notes are played right after a B flat major 7, they just sound like a nice sweet chord before resolving to an E flat major. So we are in E flat major. E flat major is the tonic. So we have an E, a B flat, an E, and then an A above that. So what does this suggest in the key of E flat? Well, it doesn't really belong in the key of E flat. Particularly, it doesn't really belong in the key of E flat because we got an E natural as the lowest note. I don't know whether that's what you mean, but it does sound a little bit weird. Part of the weirdness is the fact you've got parallel octaves here. So if I was to take that out, I just put that on there. You could be quite hard to tell because you've got this parallel, you've got this like minor ninth going on right here, or major 7th, kind of minor ninth interval going on here. And that's kind of what gives us its dissonance, but then you've got this low note here. So we've got an E, possibly a flat 5, and then also possibly a suspended 4th as well. So quite hard to determine. Now, if I put a 7th in there as well, now we're getting somewhere, because now we've got a flat 5. There's the flat 5, but we've also got this suspended 4th as well. And I think we're distorting a little on the keyboard, so let's just turn that down a bit. There we go. So yeah, it's a little hard to kind of say what it is out of in that respect. But you say the key center is E flat major 7, and you say that it comes right after the B flat major 7. So we go. So B flat major 7 would be chord 5, and then you got this, and then this resolves. So you could argue, in actual fact, that what you have here is a substitute chord. You've got a flat 2 substitution going on here. So it's like a flat 5 substitution. because this is really substituting for a B flat chord. So this is kind of like an E, or because we're in a flat key, you'd have to call this F flat. It's kind of like an F flat, kind of flat 5 chord. And it kind of resolves in an interesting way. Now, if you were to make that, instead of being the A at the top, I see why you like the A, because it resolves down like that. And that's actually a shell there of a C13 chord. So you could say it's C13 over E. Yeah, it could be C13 over E. Yeah, that kind of works. C13 over E. Yeah, I like that. I like the way that resolves. I'm going to call that. I have a name for it. It's an inverted F sharp 7. It could be an inverted F sharp 7. It could, that's for sure. But it's not. I don't think it is. Because, I mean, there is a B flat, which would be the third of an F sharp. Although, because we're in a flat key, we're in E flat, we'd have to call this G flat. So this would be the third. It could be a G flat 7 sharp 9. If we make this low note an F sharp instead of the E. I mean, the context is it comes after this chord here. So yeah, I quite like that. I quite like that. I quite like the sound of that. So yes, it could be C13 over E. That is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, which is what waveforms were suggesting, which is it's a G flat 7 sharp 9 chord, with the seventh in the lowest note. So so there's a couple of different ways you can name it. So yeah, that is definitely one way to do it. All right, so let's go back and look at Billy's question. Can you please show me how to produce a full chord by pressing on one key on the keyboard with Studio One plugins? Absolutely. There is a, if you were to bring in presence, and if you were to go to the note effects and bring in chorder, you can do exactly that. So we can go to Studio One and we can do exactly that. I can show you. In fact, we've got a video as part of my note effects series that looks at this very plugin. So if I go to Instruments, and if I go and grab something funky like Mai Tai, I like Mai Tai. And then if we go and get chord sounds, oh no, not chord sounds. Let's go for pad sounds. And let's find something that's kind of nice and warm. That sounds kind of warm. So now that we've done that, we need to go up here to the note effects section here. And then if we just grab this guy here called the chorder and drop that on top of the track here. And then we just grab some chord groups. So let's go for something that's maybe a little bit interesting. So let's try this one. And or this one. And these are like 11th chords, so So very useful. I mean, I'm pressing, technically I'm pressing 2 keys at the moment, but I can do it all with one note. Let's go for something a little bit more interesting. Let's try this. I've not used this one before. There we go. I'm quoting musicals again. Let's see, major chord groups. Let's try something different here. Let's go for chord types. So let's go for sus4s. And this gives you just one chord type that you can just move around, which is kind of nice if you want open sounding chords. And as you can see, you can kind of use these as a melodic thing. So you can use those, but I mean the ones really that Billy you would be most interested in are, you know, ones that you can just can't go wrong with that, can you? And these ones are all diatonic, which means you're only using the white notes. I think that's the same with all of these. Well, these are a little bit more kind of complex. And that's all basically one finger chord stuff. I think, and then there's this guitar one. This one's a bit more chromatic. So you can use different notes here. So there you go, Billy. That is how you use the chorder to make chords with just one finger on the keyboard. Although, as I say, some of these, you know, they sound a little bit bare on their own, so you can just like combine them with, make them more complex just by adding an extra finger in. Yeah, so that's how you do that. So I hope that helps. Good question, I like it. I use chords like that as passing / transition chords. Yes, that would definitely be a good option for that. I like that the chorder can memorize a completely different set of note harmonies per note. Yeah, it is very, very cool. It is a very powerful tool, and there is so much to this. So, I mean, you can use this on any sound, Billy. So if you've got Presence XT with the guitar, you can have at it. And as I say, you can use this guitar group thing here. And it does say use guitar. So why don't we do that? Why don't we go and grab Presence and do exactly that? So let's go and grab guitar. Let's go for a steel string. No, let's go for a nylon. Nylon strung full guitar. And then we'll go grab exactly the same thing. Chorder on there. And we'll go chord groups, I think it was, and guitar chord groups. There you go. Bit of guitar. Very, very rough strumming. Use the chorder in a higher register, up an octave or so. Yeah, you can certainly do that. I mean, they are, some of them are set in a particular range. Like this one is set C to C2 to C4. And as soon as I move away from that, it doesn't really work quite as well. So yeah, and we got some of my mods here, which is awesome. Music to Motion is here, and Rich at My Personas is also here. There you go. So yeah, it's loads of fun. Yeah, I know. You didn't see the last little bit. It's fine. If you go out of range, doesn't really work, but it does mean you can kind of do, you know. There you go, and no real piano would bend like that. But there you go. All right. That's the chorder. And as I said, I do have a video series on all of the note effects. There's just one video missing from that, which I have not posted yet, but I will definitely be posting it very, very soon. And that's where I do a whole kind of big band thing with chorder and that kind of thing. It's very, very cool. Because I wanted to challenge myself. How to get my keyboard to play the chorder. I just kind of showed you that. You just need Presence, MiTi, or any other virtual instrument, go to the Note Effects section here, except you can't see it. Go to the Note Effects section here and just drag it on. It's as easy as that. Nothing more complicated than that. Any virtual instrument will do this. So, you know, whatever virtual instrument you want to use. I'm just using MiTi and Presence because they are built into Studio One Professional, right? You don't get MiTi in Prime, but you do get it in Artist. I think you get it in Artist, and you certainly get it in the Professional version, and you also get Presence, obviously. So yeah, so you drag in your virtual instrument, you go to Note Effects, you grab the quarter, you drag it onto the same track. It has to be the same track. You can't drag it onto a secondary track or anything like that. And then you need to select a preset. Make sure that you are armed to record and that the monitor button is on, and also make sure that you have all of your routing set correctly for the channel. Make sure you've got your inputs set correctly, and you'll be good to go. You can also layer the arpeggio below the quarter for some cool results. You absolutely can. Yep. So let's go and do that. Let's go and grab arpeggio, drop that on top. And we'll just do this one. And kind of fakes a strumming pattern, right? And then there's this little hold button here, which is very cool because it just holds the chord down. And you can just turn that off if you don't want it. So it's loads of fun. And as I said, I've got a whole video series on all of these note effects and how you can kind of use them individually. And I go into all the different options and the presets that there are, and for each one, and then how you can use them in combination. And you can have particularly great effect with the arpeggiator and the quarter, or the arpeggiator and the repeater, or the arpeggiator, the quarter, and repeater. You can just chuck all three on there, and it's most entertaining. And you will have hours and hours of, excuse me, endless fun. The input filter is an interesting one. I didn't really, to be honest, know what it did until I realized what it actually does is it filters out certain MIDI notes and prevents you from being able to make them sound. So, like, if you want to play something that is very strictly just on the white notes, you can filter out all the black notes. And then, you know, let's say you're playing something that's in just D Dorian mode and you don't want to play any black notes, then, you know, if you accidentally hit a black note, it's not going to matter. It's not going to, the MIDI data for that note is not even going to register. So that's what the input filter does. And it's very, very cool. And as Rich says there, press F4 to open the inspector, and then you just need to click here to open the note effects like that, and then grab the quarter and drag it on, and it will work because it does work. Simon Carpenter is here and he's waving, which is awesome. I like it when you wave, Simon. Thank you very much for coming. All right, any other questions, because we are at the halfway point of the show. Yeah, it will work for you, Tony. You're just maybe missing a step out, but it definitely works, because I've just shown that it does actually work. So you're maybe missing a step somewhere. Bobby Booth is here. Maybe, Tony, if you tell us exactly, precisely what you are doing, we can identify which part you're missing out. Because the only explanation I can have for it not working for you is that you are missing a step, or you don't have input set up correctly, or you don't have it armed to record, or your keyboard's not set up correctly, one or the other. Question towards the beginning of the show, about 20 minutes before. What? 20 minutes before the show? I'm right at the very top here, and I don't see a question that's at that point. Nope. I am right at the very beginning of the chat, and I do not see a question from you before the show starts. And I'm going down through the chat to see if I can find a question that is from you. Oh, here we go. Got it. Have you ever considered zooming an audience member in to stretch out a song using Studio One while live? I haven't, and there are a few reasons why. And that is because there is horrible latency so it's almost impossible to do something live with somebody else connected virtually because of the delay. Because, you know, what I'm doing in my computer has to then go through Zoom, which then has to go through the internet, which then comes to the other person's computer, and the other computer's CPU, the other computer's RAM, and then be processed and all of that. All of that takes time because it has to be sent over the internet. And if I'm collaborating with somebody that's like a long way away, like maybe somebody in Australia, then there's even more delay because it has to go from here to a server, and then that server signal has to be sent to a satellite, and then from that once that data has been received by the satellite, it has to be sent from the satellite to another server, and then maybe across another server again before it finally arrives at the local area network and then into the receiving person's computer. So there is inevitably a delay. It can be as little as 7 seconds, or it can be as much as 15 or 20 seconds. So there are various software around now, like Audio Movers, for example, where collaboration is in near real time because of the way their software basically compresses everything, all the data down as small as it possibly can, without affecting the audio. And then those data packets, because they are much smaller, get sent much faster. That seems to work pretty well with almost no latency. But Zoom has inherently built-in latency. And by the way, YouTube has a delay as well. So, you know, when I'm speaking to you, the words leaving my microphone and going through OBS, by the time you get them, you're hearing them for the first time probably about 5.5 seconds after I have actually spoken them in real time. It's an interesting one. They actually have a built-in delay built in for live streaming. I don't know why they have, but they do. I'm looking for other questions. I'm going back down to the bottom. Should we just repeat questions that you might have missed rather than making you hunt for it? Yeah, that would be better. That's a good question, actually. Paul says, you have your input to the track assigned to your keyboard, Tony. And he's got it working. Cool. Excellent. So, there we go. It was just a step being missed out, which is what I thought. So, yeah, we're all sorted. All right, so I think we have run out of questions. So if anybody has a question, let's get it going. But yeah, the note effects are really ridiculously powerful, And really, my little series only touches the surface, because you could go and have endless hours of fun combining the different note effects with different things, like combining the arpeggiator and the chorder with a multi-instrument. That's extremely entertaining. And my really good friend Lucas Rusiska, who is now gaining quite the name for himself because he develops all sorts of things for PreSonus, little scripts and things here and there, like the chord track is one of his babies, one of his geniuses, and some of the macros for the score editor and the note editor are things that he has made. But he has also made a multi-instruments preset called Big Band, which is freaking awesome. And like I said, I have done a video on that, and I'm going to get that out and show you how it can be used to great effect for a lot of fun, and without actually having to know really complex harmony or playing with more than just my right hand. And I could even probably do it one finger at a time. And it's very, very cool. Let's see. Waveform says, is it plugged in? Is the power on? Are your speakers on? Is Studio One launched and connected to your interface? Are you monitoring the channels? The channel volume set assigned to an output? Yep, all good standard questions. And I think Tony actually now has it working, which is cool. He says he's found it. And he says it works now. So that's cool. So Tony has the note effects and the arpeggiator and all of that working, which is great. It is just hours of fun. I didn't really start messing about with note effects until maybe Studio One 4, when they started getting really, really good, and they got a bit of an update, and some new presets were added to it, and I thought, okay, I can start messing around with this now. And then really I had that whole note effects video series that I made. I had meant to make a video on it and do a little series on it for quite a while, but I had been caught up with quite a few things, like moving to this house, and you know, that in and of itself was a massive distraction all of its own. And so I didn't really get to that video series until, as I say, just maybe even 3 or 4 months ago. But yeah, it was a fun series to do, and unfortunately it didn't get masses and masses of views. I thought, because hey, not very many people are doing videos on the note effects, I thought I would do a series, and I thought I'd get more views. But that's okay. It is what it is. It's not everybody's thing. Some people are going to find some value and some use in it, especially if you combine it with the chord track. You know, particularly if you're not really a guitar player and you want to do like a strumming kind of guitar chord thing, you know. You can either use the arpeggiator with the repeater, the chorder with the arpeggiator, and then you can do it in combination with the chord track. That's another cool thing that you can do. And then you can fake yourself a guitar part that sounds okay. I mean, especially if you kind of, rather than having a strumming pattern, you know, if we change this into something that's, you know, maybe a little bit more. You know, you can change the pattern, which is quite cool. So there's different things you can do. So yeah, you can have loads of fun with it. User Potion says, you've been busy moving, sickness, work, family, and chasing trash cans down the road. You remember that? Oh my gosh. You remember when I had to go and rescue my bin from down the street? Oh my gosh. You know, we have little grey food caddies for disposing of food waste, which, you know, kind of, it gets all disposed of in an environmentally sound and friendly way. But these little grey caddies, they're only about so big, and you kind of fit in like maybe a week's worth of waste food, and then you just put it out on the curb. Well, we put it out on the curb, ready for being picked up the next day, and of course we'd had a storm, and so my normal trash can that is brown, because that just has the general waste, that was down the street, about 15 doors down. The grey food caddy had gone way over into somebody's garden somewhere, and we did not find it for about 2 months. And then eventually we found it, and of course everything inside it was just like turned into like mulch. It was just disgusting. But we put it out anyway, and because we thought it would be hilarious to see if, you know, what would happen if, you know, the waste disposal guys came in and they found this caddy and just went, oh my god. I just wanted to see the looks on their faces. Waveform Labs says, thanks for the analysis of those chords and combos. Sorry for the F-sharp 7 misdirection. Not a problem. Like I said, sometimes without proper context, chords can be named in a variety of different ways. Your F-sharp 7, it wasn't wrong. You know, it was not a wrong solution. It was a good potential solution, actually, to call it that way. So there's nothing wrong with that. Peter Brooks says, will the chorder give you full chords in Note Editor? Not at first. I will show you what you need to do. Let's go over here, and we'll put this in solo mode. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick the click on, make sure that I've got my pre-count, which I don't have, but now I do. And I'm going to change this one to that one there, and I'll give it just a little here, there. Okay. All right. So here we go. So I'm going to show you what happens when you record something. And we'll just do that. We'll just do the classic C minor, C major, A minor, F, and G. And I'll show you what happens. 2, 3, 4. All right, so now if I open this up in the note editor, look, we've just got individual notes. Let's go over here. What we're going to do is we're going to select that. We're going to go Control A, and we'll quantize those suckers. There we go. And for some reason, the first note has not sounded. So let's go and draw it back in. Easy enough done. All right, so now we can see that we've just got single notes, right? Now, if I right click this guy, and if I go instrument parts, trying to remember where this is, render instrument tracks. Now, when you see that word render, you're going to think, that means it renders it to audio. No. This is not transform. This is render. So watch what this does. Take a look at that. Now we've got the full thing, the full Monty of what the chorder has actually played. Complete with velocities. There we go. Sorted. And for some reason that last bar didn't play. I don't know why it didn't, but that's okay. All right, so that's how that works. I think you just see the single notes you played in the note editor. That is correct, until you render the part. Once you've rendered the part, you get everything that it does in glorious detail. Let's see. I looked away. Did you just render it or bounce it? No, I did neither. Let's Control Z that. Right. Pay close attention, people. All right. So, when you record it, you get just the individual notes, okay? All right. Now, right-click your MIDI event. Go to Instrument Parts. And then select the bottom option here, Render Instrument Tracks. This will not render it to audio. This will render all the constituent parts of the coder to note data. Watch this. And there we have it. See all of this? This is what the coder played. So no need to change the input at all. You just need to right-click, Instrument Parts, Render Instrument Tracks, and hey presto, everything will get done. All right, so first things first, when you have your single notes, quantize them so that they are bang on the grid. Once they are bang on the grid, then right-click and do the Render Instrument Tracks, and Bernard will be your auntie. All right, so I hope that that helps with that one. That's a good one, though. Good question. Waveform says, no, you have to render the MIDI, not render to audio, but render the MIDI. Yes, which is exactly what that does. Let's see. Paul Morgan says, as time passes and more melodies become recognizable, do you think music will become more discordant and jazzy? Not necessarily. I mean, actually, if you compare what is popularly understood as popular music of the now, well, I can't speak, of the now, and I'm not saying the now as in I'm Scottish, I'm saying of the present time, and compare it to the popular music of the early 1950s. So kind of just as kind of rock and roll was beginning to emerge from its roots in blues and gospel and early forms of R&B and jazz, which is where rock and roll has its roots. Its roots very much are grounded in Chicago blues and R&B and jazz. And when you get emerging rock and roll and you compare that to what we have now, has the musicological content changed all that much? Not really. It's still very much embedded deeply within the rules and concepts and general kind of understandings of what we would call Western classical music. Music from the 1750s through to the 1850s. So, that 100-year period is where everything musical and music theory orientated to do with Western music was formalized and codified and things defined and things agreed upon and conventions adhered to or kind of coalesced and agreed to. So within that framework, yes, you do have some kind of being able to push at the boundaries of things like non-tonal chords, non-tonal melody notes, and notes that don't belong to a fixed scale, a fixed key. And the good thing is that that's where kind of blues has a tremendous influence upon these kind of conventions, because blues music makes use of notes that are neither major nor minor. They are in between, which is why we call them blue notes, which is why they sound so freaking good, because they are in that crack between, you know, if I do this on the piano for a second, they are between the minor third and the major third. And there's no way to approximate that on the piano. You have to crush the notes together. It's the only way you can do it. On the piano, on a guitar, you can bend the string. On a trumpet, you can use you can either use the trumpet itself and move it on your embouchure, or you can release your embouchure a little bit, or you can half valve to bend the note. On the saxophone, you can adjust your embouchure to make a lip gliss, which is basically to bend the pitch of the note downwards using your embouchure by effectively changing the air pressure inside the instrument. On a clarinet, clarinets have finger holes, much like a recorder, so you can half hole. And, you know, the way you get that smooth glissando at the start of Rhapsody in Blue on the clarinet is by doing that half hole thing, and you can make a really, really smooth glissando. It's almost impossible to do it on a saxophone because there's no finger holes, but it can be done. I have heard it done. So to answer your question, will the future of music be more discordant? Maybe not. The current popular trends seem to suggest sticking very much to this kind of major minor tonality that's been around for 150 years at this point. So it's kind of looking unlikely that there's going to be a lot of room in popular music for atonality or 12-note tone rows and those kind of things that were developed by people like Schoenberg and Berg and Webern in the latter half of the last decade of the 19th century into the 1910s and 20s and 1930s. And then people like Bartók and Verese and Berlioz kind of extended all of those kind of non-tonal concepts to the next level. None of that has found its way really into popular music. I personally think it's a bit of a shame, but really kind of atonal music doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. It's a form of language that not a lot of people really dig. Whereas, you know, we prefer simple, easy concepts that we can just listen to very easily without having to work at trying to understand what it means. Which is why Picasso is popular to a certain group of people, but widely not really. So, yeah, I think that really is the answer to the question, and Waveform sums it up very nicely. 4 chords and a simple melody will rule over us for eons. You may well be right there. I think by and largely you will be right. I mean, even, you know, just 12-bar blues, it's just 3 chords. I mean, Status Quo, the British rock band, made their fortune out of 3 chords and, you know, which is, you know, that's got its root in jive. It's got its roots, which in itself has its roots in, you know, early twist music from the 1920s and early 1930s, and Chicago blues. So, I actually loved the music of Berlioz, by the way. For those that don't know who Berlioz is, it's spelled Berlioz. There's no S-E at the end. It's a Z at the end. Berlioz. His music is actually pretty unsettling, but it's really, really good. I really, really enjoy his music. If you want to listen to really unsettling music, listen to Schoenberg. Or listen to speech song music, which is kind of very, very popular, actually surprisingly popular in Austria and Germany. in the interwar period, and also then again it became very popular again in Austria and Germany in the immediate post-war period. And then, you know, the development of electronic music kind of helped explode all of that kind of art music scene that was happening in places like Hamburg and Berlin in particular, two centers of that kind of art house electronica, early electronic music, along with kind of non-pitched verbalizing, I guess you could call it. All right, so that's the kind of stuff that's probably going to bore the shit out of you folks because you're probably not into it. But yeah, I studied musicology. That's why I know all of this stuff. All right, so there we go. We need no stinking rules. Yeah. Isn't there a Pink Floyd song that's all about that? So there we go. So how you do all of that stuff. Oh, hang on. I missed a question from Rich. He said, can you show folk how when we change the input mode in the inspector for note effects? The input mode. Input mode for note effects. Oh, I think you are referring to are you referring to this guy up here? The input options. So it says UCNet remote in a moment, but it, you know what, doesn't really matter. QS300 is this keyboard here. This is the Yamaha QS300. It's about 33 years old. Is that what you're talking about, Rich? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, Pierre Boulez. Yes, Boulez. I love Boulez as well. I'm not sure what you're talking about. 9, he says. All right, so what are you talking about then, dude? Because I'm not sure what you're talking about when you're talking about input mode. Other than these guys here, and I appear to have turned this guy off. Actually, there's something that you may or may not know, but once you've rendered it, this guy gets switched off. I'm referring to the input mode in the inspector where note effects natively resides. Okay, let's open up the inspector. Input mode. I have to admit, I don't know what those do. I have to admit, I have never played with those. I have no idea what those do. So if you know, Rich, then you can educate me on that one. But I basically don't know. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, Waveform. Why was I scolded when I asked a tech question last week? Much of this show has been tech questions. Well, actually, this has been a Q&A show because it's a stand-in for Jonny's, the show that I do regularly with Jonny and I. We both, when we do our show together, we choose a particular topic to do with songwriting, arranging, and composing that we discuss, and then we throw it open for all kinds of questions, mostly related to the subject matter. But sometimes people throw in a question that's not related to the subject matter. But as it goes, note effects are useful for songwriting, which is why I'm demonstrating them, okay? So these are useful. I mean, it was Billy that raised the question because he wanted to know how he could be able to, you know, he wanted to be able to press one key to make a chord so that he could write songs just using one finger on his keyboard because he doesn't have tremendous keyboard skills. So this is actually very, very, very related to songwriting. So I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, Waveform. But I'm sorry if you feel like you were scolded and then, you know, kind of, you know, these questions that have been referred to. I mean, not all the questions have been Anyway, if you click that sucker so it's yellow, it will record patterns and chords as you play. What, this guy here? When it's yellow? It does indeed. You are quite correct. You are quite correct. All right, so wouldn't it be fun if I actually got rid of all of this and then we recorded something else using that? So let's go. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get the click on. 2, 3, and. All right. Now, again, all of that was just what we have now is block chords that I actually played, including some wrong notes. But what is really cool is that we can do exactly the same thing that we did before. We can go instrument parts. We can go render. And now doesn't matter if the first chord didn't render, it's okay. Doesn't matter that the first chord didn't render, okay? We'll ignore that. But basically, the chord voicings that I played in when this guy is in yellow over here, so now this is my input. These are my chord voicings. I can play whatever chord voicings I want, and the arpeggiator will play that voicing with the pattern that it has preset. You can make your own. It's cool. But it defaults to being white, which means it's not your input. It's the presets, the preset patterns. But there you go. That is very, very cool and very, very useful for coming up with a quick, down and dirty and easy keyboard part for your song. So I hope that that helps. And we've actually overrun a wee bit. But that's okay. I don't mind. Okay, there we go. I don't think I had... Did I have the coder on? No, the coder was switched off. That's why. Coder was switched off. That's why it didn't do the combined output. Yep. Rich is absolutely correct there because he didn't do the same for the arpeggiator. That's correct. Rich says you can do this per note effects. So if you are just wanting the chords down so you can play it around with the MIDI. Yeah. Absolutely. So there is another very, 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 very useful feature for getting a down and dirty, really handy. You can either do it with one finger, with many fingers, with lots of chord knowledge, or with virtually no chord knowledge. And you can make music very quickly and easily using the note effects and Mai Tai and presence and anything else that you want to stack up. And it's very, very easy and very, very cool. All right, folks, we will end it there. And I don't know if anybody is organizing a pre-show or not. If you are, get the link to that in the chat, please. And I will stick around for a few minutes after the show because I still have tea to drink. But if not, then that will be it. And we'll call it there. So I will see you folks all on Sunday. Oh, actually, I should say, before Sunday, we've got Thursday and Friday. On Friday, it is the Presonus UK Studio One meetup. So that's UK and Ireland. We merged the two meetups together. and I did have a guy called David Tritchler, who's over in Ireland, who was the guy who is the Studio One captain for the Ireland meetup. He and I merged the two together because we figured we'd get more people. And unfortunately, he's no longer able to attend on the Fridays because he has another job which he has to go to, and that takes precedence. So it's just gonna be me. So I will be hosting it like I normally do on Friday, wherever you are in the world. You don't have to be in the UK to attend this. You don't have to be in Ireland to attend this. You can be anywhere on the planet and you can attend this. And it's very, very cool. Oh, Billy's not a Blue Wrench guy. That's easily fixed. That's easily fixed. There, fixed. Billy, drop out and drop back in, and there you go. There you go. So, Studio One meetup is Friday at 8 p.m. UK time. So if you are elsewhere in the world, you need to look up what that means for you in terms of time zones. I can tell you that we are 6 hours ahead of Central Time in the United States, and we are 5 hours ahead of Eastern Time in the United States, and we are 7 hours ahead of Pacific Time in the United States, and we are 12 hours, I think, behind Australia and New Zealand, or at least parts of Australia are 10 hours, and New Zealand, Christchurch and Wellington and all of that are 12 hours ahead of us. So work out where you are in the world and how it relates to currently British summertime, and work out what 8 p.m. means for you. So 8 p.m. British summertime, so that's going to be in the afternoon at some point. I think 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon if you're in the Central Time Zone area. So that will be the end of the show. So see you folks on Friday. I would love it if you could all come along and we can just talk all about Studio One, what you want to see in the future, what you like now, what you maybe don't like so much now, and we can talk about kind of what the direction you would like to see Studio One head in. We can discuss all of that stuff on Friday, and then on Sunday at 6 p.m. Central, we'll have the regular Sunday Night Live. And that's where I throw the whole thing open to all kinds of questions. So it can be technical to do with Studio One if you have a technical support problem and you've maybe not made a support ticket for it and you want to talk about it. We can try and reproduce it. And if necessary, because I work for Presonus, I can log it internally right there for you. So yeah, that's Sunday Night Live. So before then, UK Meetup on Friday, then Sunday Night Live on Sunday. Until then, folks, I will wish you all a very, very good evening. Good night. Good night.